Hey everybody, it's Tuesday. It's 12 o'clock here in Okotoks. It's time for Tuesday Talks with Craig. Thanks for tuning in. If you're live with me right now, welcome. If you're tuning in at another time later today or this week, glad to have you join me whenever you can make it. I want to just begin this little talk today just with a little story from this past weekend. So my wife and I were sitting in the backyard because the weather's getting a little bit warmer and nicer around here, and we decided to have an evening fire pit. So we roasted some hot dogs and sat by the fire pit, just the two of us, and just enjoyed the evening hanging out together. And as we were sitting there talking and hanging out by the fire, we kind of thought, it'd be nice to have some friends here with us to share this experience with. And I think it just kind of pointed out this reality that this past year or so has really limited our social interactions, right? And I know we're not the only ones. We've all sort of gone through seasons of lockdown and restrictions, and it's really just limited our connections with people. And so as Tammy and I were sitting there around the fire, we just thought, wow, who are some of the people that we could be inviting to our space, to enjoy these kinds of moments with, and just began to look forward to getting together with people again. And here in our part of the country, we're beginning to see restrictions lifted again. Today is another marker where some things are opening up, and there's room to connect outdoors for now with bigger groups of people. And so it's just got me thinking, I think it's got a lot of people thinking, what's life going to look like as we begin to re-engage in activity and specifically in relationship. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit today, is this idea of our connections with people, sort of community life and mission. So we're in the book of Acts, right? The last couple of weeks we've been talking about how the Holy Spirit came and filled the disciples with power. And so Acts 1:8, so that they could be witnesses to Jesus, that they would be Jesus' witnesses in Jerusalem, in Judea, in Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. And so we've been talking about how this idea that the book of Acts is the story of the mission of God to spread the good news of Jesus, starting in Jerusalem and spreading out Judea, Samaria, to the ends of the earth. And so as we read through the book of Acts, it really is that story unfolding, or the mission unfolding to broader groups of people. And today the passage I want to talk about is specifically talking about church life or community life or relationships within the church, and the connection between the community and the mission to spread the good news of Jesus. And I think it's applicable for us as we begin to think about re-engaging in relationship, to think intentionally about what relationships are going to look like as we move forward and embrace socialization again, and physical contact and friendship with people. How can we be intentional about that in the ways that God desires for us, so that we can be effective witnesses? And so I'm going to talk about this connection between community life or relationship and mission. So the passage I want us to look at is Acts chapter 2, verses 42 to 47. It's one of my favorite passages in the book of Acts. I go back to this passage frequently, and really it's like a little snapshot or picture of what church life looked like in the early church in the book of Acts. And so let me just read it and sort of talk it through as we go. And so sort of think of this idea of a picture of the, sort of church life, or a little video snapshot of church life in the book of Acts. So it says, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to prayer. So those were sort of four main things that the community, the church, was committed to. Teaching, fellowship, which is another word for relationship or friendship, the breaking of bread, the meal, right, the sacred meal, and to prayer. So those were sort of the things, four things that the community was devoted to. And then it goes on to talk about sort of some more description of what community life looked like. It says, everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles, because now they were spirit-filled, amazing things were happening. It says all the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. So there's this spirit of generosity in the church, right? There's commonality. They spent time together. They shared their resources with each other. They helped each other out. And it says in verse 46, every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. So we could spend, significant time sort of diving into this passage, but just on a first read, we see that relationships were really important in the church, relationship with one another, with other believers. And going back to this image of Tammy and I sitting at the fire in our backyard by ourselves, if we were to think, what would it look like to intentionally engage in community life? What are we envisioning? I would want to envision some of what I'm seeing here in Acts, that we would spend time with people, that we would sort of do life together, that we would have things in common, that we would share with one another, that there would be this spirit of generosity, that we would break bread in our homes, having meals together, and even the sacred meal, the Lord's Supper together. Enjoying the favor of all the people. That's just a great summary, right, of the relational life in the church. They were enjoying the favor of all the people. And maybe you're sort of longing to enjoy relationship and to get back together with people and to enjoy this favor of, relationship with one another. And these are all good things to sort of long for and to look forward to and to intentionally pursue. But then the real interesting verse is at the end of this passage, at the end of verse 47, it says, after all of this, it says, and the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. And what I see there is this connection between community life in the church, this enjoying of, the enjoyment of relationship and this enjoyment of the favor of all the people, that this experience of church life leads to effective mission. People are drawn to Jesus by what they see in our relationships with one another as followers of Jesus. And so I think it's just really important for us to consider as we re-engage in relationship and as things begin to open up in society and government restrictions are beginning to lift, and as we anticipate and look forward to reconnecting with people, to do so intentionally. And as followers of Jesus, to maybe ask the question, what would it look like to enjoy the favor of God's people? What would it look like to do life with other followers of Jesus? What would it look like to pray for one another and to encourage one another and to spend time together so that others outside our relationships, outside of the fellowship of followers of Jesus, that those who are maybe outside looking in on us would be drawn to Jesus because of what they see in our relational experience with one another. I truly believe that Jesus sort of designed the church to be an attractive space for people who don't know Jesus yet. Jesus' hope and dream for the church is that we would enjoy the favor of one another so that others would be attracted and drawn in and enticed and want to know more, not just about our community, but about the one who's at the center of our community. And so I want to encourage you to just maybe ask the question, what will it look like for you to intentionally re-engage with other believers? And hopefully you haven't completely cut yourself off in this period of recent isolation. We can still stay in touch through technology and stuff. But as we anticipate getting together with people again, what will it look like for you to intentionally re-engage with other believers? And how might Jesus use these relational connections with one another to draw people to himself? Those who don't yet know Jesus, what's going to rub off on them from your experience of relationship with one another? I'm looking forward to reconnecting with people and getting together and encouraging one another in our walk with Jesus, and hoping that those relationships will spill out to the world around us, so that just like Acts 1:8 says, that we will be Jesus' witnesses in our Jerusalem and our Judea and our Samaria and to the ends of the earth. Jesus designed the church, the community life, the community expression within the church to benefit us together, one another, but also to spread hit the good news of Jesus to the world around us. So hopefully as you re-engage, you'll be thinking about some of those things. How can I intentionally re-engage with other believers so that those who don't yet know Jesus would be drawn to him through what they see in my relational experience? So thanks for joining me today. Hopefully that's an encouraging word for you as we open up and begin to re-engage with people. Let's do so on purpose with Jesus leading us